You break out of a tiny amber egg, one of thousands hanging in a cluster from the roof of a rocky den. Your body is smaller than a grain of rice. You drift upward into open water, pulled by the current, away from the den, away from your mother. You cannot fight the current. You do not try. You ride it. Around you, hundreds of your siblings scatter into the dark. Some vanish into the mouths of fish before their arms have even uncurled. You keep drifting. You are 3 days old. You feed on tiny drifting animals, snatching them with your 8 small arms. Your body is transparent, almost invisible, and this is the only reason you are still alive. A shape passes below you, wide and finned, mouth opening and closing on the current. You go still, arms drawn tight against your body, and let the water carry you past it unnoticed. It does not turn. You keep drifting. Weeks pass. The open water is not safe forever. Your body begins to change, growing heavier, denser, less suited to drifting. Something in you pulls toward the bottom. You sink. The sea floor rises to meet you, rock, sand, broken shell. You settle into a crevice and press your body flat against the stone. For the first time, you are not drifting. You are hiding. You are 2 months old now. You have found a den, a gap beneath a rock, barely wider than your body. You drag stones and broken shells to the entrance and stack them into a wall, leaving only a narrow gap to watch through. Your skin ripples. Bands of orange and brown pass across your body, then fade to match the mottled gray of the rock beside you. You do not decide to do this. Your skin answers the color around you on its own, faster than thought. Thousands of tiny pigment cells opening and closing beneath your surface. A fish drifts past your den. Your eyes track it, wide and unblinking. It does not see you. You are the rock. Night falls. This is when you hunt. You pour out of the den, your body flowing over the stone like liquid, and cross the open sand toward a bed of clams. You have no bones. Any gap wider than your beak, you can pass through. You wedge 2 arms beneath a clamshell and pull. The shell holds. You pull harder, steady, patient, until the muscle inside gives way. You carry the shell back to your den entrance and drop it outside, one broken half among a growing pile of others. This pile will grow for as long as you live here, a record, to anything that finds it, of every meal you have ever taken. You are 4 months old. Your arms have grown long enough to span the width of your den 3 times over. Each arm carries hundreds of suckers, and each sucker can taste what it touches. You do not need to see a crab to know it is a crab. Your arm already knows. You explore a gap between 2 rocks too narrow to see into. You send one arm ahead of you, feeling along the stone, tasting the water inside the crack before the rest of you follows. The arm finds nothing. You withdraw it and move on. A moray eel emerges from a crevice nearby, hunting the same reef. You freeze. Your skin flushes dark, then pale, then dark again. A warning, not camouflage this time. Your arms lift, spreading your body wide, larger than you are. The eel hesitates and turns away. You wait until it is gone before you move again. You are 6 months old. A crab backs into a hollow beneath a slab of rock, claws raised, and will not be pulled free by force. You test the gap around the slab with 1 arm, then 2, then all 8, spreading your body across the stone and pulling in unison. The slab does not move. You retreat, circle the rock, and find a second entrance to the same hollow, a narrow crack on the far side, too small for your body, but not for a single arm. You reach through it from behind and close a hand's width of muscle around the crab before it can react. You are 8 months old now. Your body has grown to the size of a large dinner plate, arms included. You have outgrown 3 dens already, abandoning each one as your body became too large for its entrance, dragging your belongings, shells, stones, the husks of old meals, to a new hiding place each time. A predator finds you unprotected on open sand. A sea lion, fast, curious, closing the distance before you can reach cover. You release a cloud of ink into the water between you and vanish behind it, jetting backward through your siphon, arms trailing behind you like a torn flag. The ink hangs in the water in roughly your shape. The sea lion strikes the cloud. You are already gone. You reach a crevice too narrow for the sea lion to follow and press yourself inside, squeezing your body down until only your beak, the one hard part of you, remains a limit on how small you can become. The sea lion noses at the entrance once, then leaves. Your skin is pale now, drained of color from the strain of the chase. It takes long minutes, resting in the dark of the crevice, before the color returns. You are 9 months old. On a bare stretch of sand between two reefs, you find two halves of a broken shell, wider than your body, discarded by something long gone. You gather them, one arm wrapped around each, and carry them with you across the open ground, awkward and slow, exposed the entire way. You reach the shelter of a low rock and settle the two halves together around your body, closing them like a shell of your own. When a fish passes overhead, you draw the halves tighter and wait, hidden inside them, until it moves on. You keep the shells afterward, dragging them with you when you finally move on from this stretch of sand. You are 10 months old. A storm churns the shallows for 3 days, tearing loose shells and stones from the seafloor and scattering them across the reef. When the water calms, you leave your den to find the sand outside rearranged, familiar landmarks gone. You rebuild the wall at your entrance stone by stone, testing each one with an arm before setting it into place. You are 11 months old. A larger octopus claims a den only a short distance from yours, and for several nights your hunting paths cross on the open sand between the rocks. The first time you see her, you rise onto the tips of your arms, spreading your body wide and pale, and she does the same. Neither of you moves closer. After a long moment, she turns back toward her own den, and you turn back toward yours. Neither of you hunts that stretch of sand again. You are 1 year old. Your body no longer grows the way it once did. Something else begins now. A scent drifts through the water, carried on the current, the trace of another octopus, one you have never met, somewhere beyond the reef. Every arm registers it. You leave your den and follow it across open ground. You would never normally cross in daylight, exposed, unhidden, moving toward a den that is not your own. You find him at the entrance of his shelter, larger than you, pale with tension. You keep your distance. An octopus that comes too close to another octopus is, more often than not, a meal to it. He extends one arm toward you, modified at its tip, and you allow it to reach across the gap between your bodies. Neither of you comes closer than this. He deposits a small packet along the length of his arm and withdraws it. Within minutes, he turns and disappears back into his den. You do not follow. You are done with mating. You will never mate again, and neither will he. Something in his body has already begun to change. You will not see him again. You return to your den and begin to search, moving from crevice to crevice along the reef floor until you find what you are looking for, a hollow beneath an overhang, hidden, defensible, with a narrow entrance you can seal. Over the following days, you lay your eggs, tens of thousands of them, pale strands like grains of rice threaded onto silk, hanging in ropes from the ceiling of your den. You attach each strand carefully, arm over arm, until the ceiling above you is heavy with your offspring. You do not leave again. You are 18 months old. You remain in the den, curling your arms around the egg strands, blowing jets of water across them to keep them clean and oxygenated, driving away the small crabs and worms that creep close in search of an easy meal. You do not hunt. You do not eat. A crab edges toward the strands while you rest. You catch the movement and strike before it reaches the eggs, driving it back through the entrance and out into open water. You return to the ceiling and resume passing water over the strands, arm after arm, without pause. Weeks pass. Your body begins to change. Your skin, once smooth, grows pale and loose. Your arms, once thick with muscle, thin and shorten. You continue tending the eggs regardless, moving water over them even as your own strength fails. Your eyes, once sharp enough to track a darting fish across open water, begin to cloud. You are close to 2 years old now, old for what you are. A fish drifts close to the den entrance, drawn by the stillness inside. Once, you would have driven it off in an instant. Now your arm rises slowly, and the fish circles once before losing interest and moving on. You return your attention to the eggs above you. The eggs above you begin to stir. One by one, tiny translucent shapes break free of their casings and drift upward through the gap in your den wall, out into open water, exactly as you once did. You do not follow them. You cannot. Your body no longer answers the way it once did, and the effort of the last months has taken everything you had left to give. You settle against the floor of the den, arms loosely curled, as the last of your offspring rise past you into the current and scatter into the dark water above the reef. Your body stills. Above the den, hundreds of your offspring drift upward on the current, small and transparent, pulled by water they cannot fight and do not try to, carried out toward the open sea, alone, the way you once were.